Do you want to acquire more patients per month? Do you want to see our formula for how to construct a website that can handle 50,000 patients a month and handles the multi-location structure? Well, that's exactly what I'm about to show you right now. This is going to be the HIPAA compliant guide for multi-location website structures that we use to acquire 50,000 patients a month. This is going to be really important, especially if you're looking to scale your digital experience. Without a good website that works the way that you want, you really can't have any sort of digital strategy that works at all. The website is really the heart of your digital strategy. So let's go ahead and begin. A little bit about me. I'm Austin. I am the co-founder of two telemedicine businesses, Winona and Willow. They do about 50 million in annual recurring revenue. I'm also a partner at Outliant, which is a software development and marketing agency that helps HIPAA compliant companies build technologies and acquire patients. If you're watching this video, you likely already know what Outliant is. And if you're wondering why I'm making this video to help businesses like yours, even though I have successful telemedicine businesses, it's because the telemedicine businesses are set up for high growth, high exit. They don't really pay me anything because all the money that is made from those businesses goes right back into reinvesting into more ads. However, the agency and Outliant is what pays me on a month-to-month basis. So that's why I want to work with you. I want to help you grow your business, and I want to share this knowledge that I've accumulated over years about how to acquire more patients if you own a multi-location medical practice. So let's go ahead and dive into what a multi-location website looks like. So essentially, in a multi-location website, you have your sort of global homepage, right? The homepage for your brand. On the global homepage, it links to the blog article that's associated with the global brand, the About Us, all these sort of extra pages that are about the brand itself. And then within the website, you have a location, search, and display. And you can look for individual locations. All your locations pop up. Maybe somebody types in a zip code or something like that, and it'll show all the locations that are relevant to that person's zip code. Essentially, what this website is it is a full-blown website for your brand with a directory of locations for somebody to look through to find the location that is most suitable for them. So that is the ideal structure for a multi-location website. We see all sorts of crazy things where people will literally create new websites and domains for each of their locations, or they create subdomains. None of that is optimal. I'll tell you a little bit why later. This is the most optimal strategy. You have your global homepage and then all of your locations associated with it. One, they often struggle to build new locations or delete locations. It's a massive process for the marketing leader to go through. And so it's really slow and not something that they want to do. They also likely face poor local SEO because the locations can be potentially invisible to search results. Maybe they haven't set up the proper practice for building out the Google My Businesses and the Yelp profiles and ensuring that all the data is the same. If the data is not the same, then you're going to have poor SEO. They are also struggling with inconsistent data. So maybe on one platform like Yelp or Google My Business, it says you close at 6, but on your website, it says you're open till 7, or you actually close till 4. That would really frustrate a customer if they came in at 5 p.m., you closed at 4 because your Google My Business said you closed at 6. Another thing that marketing leaders face with their multi-location website is often struggles to have consistent data across all of the platforms that a user interacts with when deciding to do business with you. This can be your Google My Business profile, this can be your Yelp profile, this can be your current website. Essentially getting all these platforms to say the same thing in terms of like the hours that you're open or your address or anything like that can be a real pain. And it can cause some suffering for customers because if on your Google My Business it says you close at 6, but on your website it closes at 4 and you do close at 4, well, if somebody comes in at 5 hoping that you will let them in or service them, but you're closed, even though it says you're open to 6 on Google My Business, they're going to be really upset with you. They're going to be upset with your brand. It's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth, and they're probably not going to come back. Marketing leaders are also failing to manage many locations effectively and essentially be able to acquire customers at scale for each of their locations. Maybe one location is doing really well in customer acquisition and another location is doing really bad. When you have a website that's just not built properly, these are going to be problems that you're running into, and many marketing leaders don't really know how to fix that. Marketing leaders are also tasked with bringing in traffic and converting traffic with a really aesthetically unpleasing or poor UX UI sort of website. I hate that marketing leaders have to deal with that because the website is the heart of your digital strategy. But essentially, a lot of marketing leaders are forced to make a ugly, unconverting, underperforming website perform in order for them to get their bonuses. And so this is often a struggle that they often face. And then another thing that specifically medical practices struggle with when it comes to their multi-location website is how to get the data into the ad platforms without violating HIPAA, or how to get the data into their databases and all of that. They have to be extra careful of HIPAA considerations, and marketing leaders who own these multi-location medical websites often struggle with how to do that effectively. And here I want you to see the average conversion rate of medical websites, and the median across all industries is 6.9, which is pretty high. You can see that in the medical field, this is all, more or less lower with exception to wellness. And essentially, if you have a website that converts under these sort of median numbers, that means that your website is not really built to perform, and you should either do CRO or consider rebuilding it or looking at your ad strategy, but you have a very large problem because you can't do patient acquisition to grow your business. And the easiest way to grow your business in 2024 and beyond is through having a really solid patient acquisition strategy. Here are the reasons why you need to fix your website now. 1, bad SEO equals lost visibility, which in turn creates lost revenue. You're shooting yourself in the foot by having bad SEO because people are not going to find your business. A bad CMS leads to inaccurate information being spread out across your websites, your different directories and listings, which can lead to customer loss. Also, having a bad CMS means that you're spending likely way too much time building or removing a location page. It's probably a very monumental lift in order to create those. So you want to make sure that you have a good CMS so that you're not spending a lot of money in terms of resource time creating or removing these pages. A bad UX means that you're wasting a lot of ad spend that can't be recovered. You're never getting that money back. You want to make sure your website UX is intuitive and makes sense, so that way people don't have a lot of friction when they're going through your funnel. And if you have bad UX, then you have likely bad digital, considering your website is the heart of your digital strategy. So you're losing your competitive edge to other people in your niche and in your area who are doing this much better, because all patients, or most patients, do some sort of online search before deciding which company to work with. And if your competitor's digital experience is that much better than yours, then the patients are likely going to go with them. So you're losing a competitive edge to a competitor on something that's entirely controllable. And then also why you need to fix this now is that it leads to bad compliance, which leads to HIPAA violations and lawsuits and all sorts of terrible things for your patients. So you need to fix this right now to resolve the bad SEO, the bad CMS, the bad UX, the bad digital, and the bad compliance. Having a new website in place is going to just allow you to execute a much better digital strategy that will acquire many more patients. In fact, there's not many things that will have such a dramatic impact on your business like having a functioning website that allows you to convert patients digitally. So just to prove this, here is the metrics from one of our customers. essentially last year, before they worked with us and before we redid their website, they still ran ads, and they ran about $800,000 from April to June. They were paying $160 per form submission, and they were getting about 20,000 appointments during this period. This was problematic for them because essentially their lifetime value per customer was around $150. And so they were underwater with their ad spend and patient acquisition. So fast forward a year to when we have worked with them and we've released a new website that just converts much better and is much more intuitive. They're now able to spend $900,000, so went up by $50,000 during the same period. They're able to get almost double the amount of conversions that they had before at $92 per submission, which is great considering the LTV is $150. They're paying $92. They can essentially scale that up and up and up and up and up and continuing acquiring customers. And their confirmed appointments shot up by around 5,000 confirmed appointments for the same period. So just even looking to this period next year, I would imagine each of these numbers to 1.5x and the form submission to stay consistent, even though we're running a lot more ads and spending a lot more ad spend. And then here's just kind of some other proof that the system works. You know, we have some telemedicine businesses in the HIPAA and medical space that are acquiring a lot of patients. So Winona, for instance, had 22,000 patients make a payment in August of 2024. We had 0 in April of 2021. So in 3 years, we were able to acquire 22,000 patients, and that's just a month. And then another telemedicine business that we just built is already doing over $500,000 in MRR. And just in April this year, it was doing $0, right? So, you know, what we're telling you has dramatic impacts on your business. Being able to scale through digital acquisition is just such a cheat code for growing the enterprise value of your business. So let's go ahead and dive into these 10 sort of steps and strategies that you need to make sure that you have in place in order to run a highly functioning, multi-location, HIPAA-compliant website for your medical practice. So the first step is to make sure that you're using one domain for all locations. Essentially, when you have one domain, it makes that domain stronger in terms of how Google views it, and they will elevate your listings on Google or elevate your SEO for free. Just because you have a larger website, you have more people kind of linking to that website. And this is in juxtaposition to creating separate websites for each of your locations. So on the left-hand side here near the X, we can see we have locations built with subdomains, which create new domains. Essentially, we have boston.healthcareservices.com, chicago.healthcareservices.com, dallashealthcareservices.com, and many others. And you see this across a lot of brands, mostly because they built their websites a long time ago. But essentially, when you build your website in this way, it creates separate websites for each of your locations. So that way, each of these websites is small. Google doesn't trust it as much, and so they just don't rank it as well. Compared to if you put all of your locations under a single domain with this URL structure, which would be, your business name /location/city, which would be your location /locations/city name or clinic name. Essentially, using this structure is going to make your website much bigger, which will provide more SEO juice from Google, provide a better and more consistent experience, and just simplify the management of your website in a much easier fashion. The other thing that you want to make sure that you have in order to have a website that scales easily with patient acquisition is the right CMS. So since you are a multi-location business, you want to make sure that you can easily build and remove location pages. And so what I'm going to show you are 3 different kinds of CMSs that we see for multi-location websites. The first one that a lot of companies who have dated digital experiences have is WordPress multi-site management. It's kind of an archaic way of doing it. You have to put in plugins. There's a lot of security vulnerabilities, but it was back in the day the best solution. Times have changed. And now what we're seeing and recommending to our customers is to use Webflow for many cases. So if you're a business that's okay with anybody who would access a site to have access to all the locations information, Webflow is the best CMS platform. It's really easy to use and build on. It's also really cheap to build on. So instead of spending, $700,000 to deliver a multi-location website, you can expect to spend, maybe $200,000. And the platform scales really well. Orange Theory uses Webflow and they have 1,200 locations. They're in 13 different countries. Like, the platform is really good. There is one big limitation for Webflow that other CMSs called headless CMSs resolve, which is if you have a location and you have somebody who works at that location who should be able to edit what their location webpage says, but not have permission to edit what any other webpage says, then you're going to need a different platform other than Webflow, and we would recommend headless platform. So headless is a type of CMS. It essentially allows you to build a website however you like, really shows off a lot of engineering expertise, and it's really popular for multi-location brands who need to have permissions that allow location owners to update their website, but only update their website. The headless options that we recommend, and I have another video kind of explaining the different types of CMS options, but the headless options that we recommend are Strapi, Contentful, and Sanity. They're all pretty similar in terms of like how to build on each of them. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and I can help you kind of choose the right CMS that makes sense for your business. But essentially, I would not recommend using Webflow multi-site. But essentially, I would not recommend using WordPress multi-site. I would recommend using Webflow. That's my favorite. It's the easiest to build on. However, if you need these individual location permissions, then you're likely going to have to use headless, and those headless options are Strapi, Contentful, and Sanity. The third step to optimizing your website to be a patient acquisition machine is to optimize the UX. Essentially, you want to have a unified yet localized experience, right? So each of the location pages should look the exact same, should feel the exact same, but maybe they say, some slightly different things in the copy. So for instance, I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and they call Winston-Salem, North Carolina, Camel City. You could put that sort of nickname in the copy of the location. And then, in Austin, it wouldn't say Camel City, it would say, something else. You can put the third thing to do if you're looking to build, the third thing to do if you're looking to build a patient acquisition multi-location website is making sure that you have a good UX, UI. It's so important. If somebody comes to your website and they think it's ugly, they're going to want to leave. They're not going to want to have anything to do with your brand. And you're just leaving a massive amount of money on the table by having an ugly website. So not only does it need to be aesthetically pleasing, though, it also needs to be functional and it needs to be easy to use. And essentially what that means is it needs to have like an easy to navigate. It needs to be easy to navigate and have a location selector so that way you can easily find the right location for you. You need to have clear calls to action for contacting or finding directions, not only for the main brand, but for each of the locations. The patient portals and forms need to be user-friendly, make sure that they work on iPhone, as well as desktop, right? Like there shouldn't be any sort of UX, UI issues between desktop and mobile. Reducing page load speeds is massive. It's probably the most important thing in reducing page load speeds is massive. It's probably the most important thing when it comes to conversion rate optimization. Pages that load faster just have a higher conversion rate, simply because if somebody doesn't have great Wi-Fi and your website takes a long time to load, it's going to take them a really long time to load it. And people's attention spans are the size of a goldfish. They only last for about 7 seconds. And so if your website takes too long, then they're going to leave. Websites that take longer than 4 seconds to load generally have like a 50% drop off. So if you can have a website that loads in a second, you will have just much more people coming to your website. Your patient acquisition and conversion rate is going to go through the roof. So reducing page load speeds is extremely important if you want to acquire more patients and have a website handle a lot of the heavy lifting there. Using embedded and high quality images. Nobody likes seeing blurry images. Making customer service easy to obtain. Customer service is really important in pretty much every multi-location franchise business. Organizing products by categories. So if you just offer a lot of services, just making the organizations very easy. And then probably the most important piece, at least conceptually, is just making it easy for the user to get what they want to get when they come to your website. If you have a multi-location business, then it's very likely that all the user wants to get is the location information for the location closest to them. So that way they can get the directions, that way they can get the phone number, that way they can get the hours of service. That's really what people want when they come to your website if you are a multi-location business. Probably the most aesthetically pleasing and great UX website is Airbnb. So, if you had your location bar right here, people would definitely go to the right location and they wouldn't have any issue. We actually also built another way of doing this with our client, Ideal Dental, and I'll show you their website because it is a patient acquisition machine, and I want to show you why that is. So we designed this website, and by redesigning and rebuilding this website, we increased their conversion rate by 50%, like massive, massive strides. You saw that before and after earlier. That was Ideal Dental. And essentially what makes this website great is it's very easy to find what you're looking for. So most of the people in Ideal Dental's case who come to the website are looking to book an appointment, right? So you have book appointment consistently across the website. All of the call to actions say the exact same thing. They're very easy to find. And if a user is not looking to book appointment, well, then they want to find a location. So essentially, by clicking that button, they can easily find the location that they're looking for. And now we are on the location page. As you can see, clearly has the address, it has the hours, and the phone number. That's all anybody wants. You should make it really easy for them to find that. And by doing so, you will be rewarded with more dollars in your pocket and more patients in your local medical practices seats. Just a little bit more information on what a multi-location page should look like is information about the location, right? So we call it NAP data, stands for name, address, and phone number. That should be easily accessible, right? So you can see right here would be a great spot for that. Hours of operation are really important. Directions, having a map that's clickable, so all they have to do is click that, and Google Maps or Apple Maps will direct them right there, is really important. And then all these location-specific bits of information, such as FAQs, visuals of the business, calls to action, all of that good stuff. This would be the ideal sort of markup for what a location page looks like. So now moving on to the acquisition piece, and these are the things that you need to have right on your website in order for the website to perform correctly and acquire more patients. The most important thing is SEO. SEO is going to be such a game changer for your multi-location businesses, and there's a lot that you need to do in order to have success here. But the reason why this is such a game changer is because if your results pop up more, people are naturally going to click on your business more. So even though you're paying ads to be in this top businesses section, right? You see the Gilded Lily. If you put in a lot of effort on the SEO side to also be the number one organic result, then you're going to occupy a ton of space in the fold for users. And 2 out of 4 times, they're going to click on your business, right? Compared to if you didn't have this, then you would be 1 in 3. The numbers and kind of the math there changes because people asymmetrically click on the first option. However, being the first option over here does not hurt if you are not the first option right here. So you want to build a big SEO strategy for your multi-location website. This includes having the multi-location pages, the technical SEO, make sure you have a good site structure and domains are all under a single domain. You want to have a good local search strategy, right? Make sure that all of your Google My Businesses are created for each location. You want to have a local SEO strategy. Local SEO is much easier to build than national SEO, right? So getting on the first page of Google, if you are getting on the first page of Google if you're a dentist is really hard. It's really hard if you're a dentist that getting on the first page of Google, if somebody types in the word dentist and you want to get on the first page anywhere in the world, it's really, really hard, right? And ranking nationally is really hard. Local is much easier. So you want to make sure that you rank when somebody says dentist in Austin. It's much easier to rank for dentist in Austin than just dentist in general, right? So you want to make sure that each of your location pages are set up correctly to handle local SEO. And one of the most important things for handling local SEO is making sure that your NAP, name, address, and phone number, are consistent across all platforms. If your name, address, and phone number are different on different platforms, say it's different for Google My Business than your website than Yelp, Google is actually going to ding you a good bit, and they're not going to show your listing very often because they don't trust the data. The data saying different things, and so they just don't want to show it because they don't want to offer their users a bad experience. When it comes to SEO and content, though, we want to make sure that we are investing still in building out the national brand. So when you have blog articles, those are going to belong to the national brand because we still want the national brand to rank, and all of the blog articles that you create are likely associated with the national brand rather than just associated with the local brand. So you want to make sure that you are creating original content for the national brand. And the other thing that you want to make sure is that if you have a blog article for the national brand, you also don't want to rewrite that blog article and put it and just associate it and just associate it with the local brand, right? So all of your blogs, all of information about the national brand goes on the national brand sort of homepage and website structure. And really the only thing that should be on the local page is information related to each location. So now that we've covered SEO, it's good to take a look at the ad strategies that work. And what really works best for multi-location businesses is Google Ads. So essentially, if somebody types in dentist in Austin, you can pay to have your business be number one. This is a great way to acquire patients. As you saw earlier, we were acquiring for Ideal Dental as you saw earlier, for Ideal Dental, we were acquiring patients using Google Ads at like $98 a form submission. So it wasn't that expensive to bring in a new patient in the door. But essentially what you want to do when you do these ads is making sure that you're doing hyperlocal targeting, right? You only want your Winston-Salem location to show up for people who are in Winston-Salem, right? You don't want your Winston-Salem location ad to show up for people who are in Los Angeles or anything like that. That would be a bad ad and that would be wasting ad spend. So you just want to make sure that you're doing hyperlocal, setting geographic regions down to neighborhoods, zip codes, and proximity to your locations, or if you're a HIPAA compliant company, healthcare locations. You also want to use localized keywords, right? So urgent care in city name would be a great keyword to use, or blank healthcare services. Using city names is a great thing to target on because that's what people are typing into Google, and you want your ads to show up number one. Using custom messaging for local markets is a great idea. As I told you earlier, Camel City for Winston-Salem, that's what the nickname is. Like, that makes people trust the brand a little bit more, right? Because it feels like the brand actually knows the location and who they are as people, and it builds trust with the people who are in that location because it makes the brand feel like they are actually a part of that location rather than some foreign brand that is just now in their location. Yeah. Using custom messaging for local markets is just really important because it makes your brand feel local to that local market because you're using words that people within that local market are also speaking. One of the most important things to do is make sure that your conversion tracking by location works correctly. So making sure that you're able to use UTM parameters, click ID, and custom analytics, because not all of your locations are going to convert the same. Because not all of your locations are going to convert at the same conversion rate. So you want to use these UTM parameters to figure out which locations are converting better, which sort of ad strategy is converting better, and essentially take all those findings and then apply it to the locations that are not working as well. So make sure that you have your UTM parameters, click IDs, and custom analytics all set up so that way you can find the winning strategies and then replicate it to all the locations. And this is also really important, using local landing pages for ad campaigns. We don't want to run ads and send people to Nothing Bundt Cake's homepage where they would then have to go through and find the location. Instead, we want to run our localized ad to go to the localized landing page. It seems obvious, but you would be surprised by how many people screw this up. So now diving into location management and what you need to do to manage all the locations within your website. So one of the most important things is to have centralized data management. You should have a database that lists out all of your locations, all of their hours of operation, their name, their phone number, their address, and all relevant information to each of these locations. So that way you can easily send it to directory listings. You can have dynamic location pages that will automatically generate content by looking at your database. But essentially you need a place where you know the data is correct. Otherwise, if everything starts saying different things, then you're going to be confused and it's going to be So now diving into location management. Location management is making sure that all of your data platforms say the right thing when it comes to each of your locations' data. So the best way to do this is by having a centralized data management database in a sense. And what that database would include is the name of each of your locations, the hours of operation for each of your locations, the phone number, the address, and all other relevant information to each location. It serves as your source of truth. So that way you can verify that all of your location pages say the right things. So that way you can verify that all of your location pages and directory say the right things, right? So in this case, you would check the paperwork or your database. You would check your website to make sure that it says the same thing as your database. You would update your My Google page listing to make sure that it says the same thing as your website and your database. You would update all directories and listings, and you would update social media profiles. I'm going to show you a way to automate this, but some of our biggest customers like Orange Theory still do this by hand, right? It just takes about a week or so to make all the updates necessary. So it may or may not be worth it to automate this. because you can build sort of protocols to actually check and make sure that all these things work correctly. So these are and one big thing to note, I said this earlier, I want to say this again. If your name, address, and phone are inconsistent across the internet, SEO isn't going to rank you. They don't trust your data. They don't know what to say. They're not going to recommend you because they think you're giving them bad data, or they think you have bad data, and they don't want their customers to interact with bad data. The other thing that you should be doing for location management, or that we recommend for location management, is setting up personalization and automation for each location. So want to have dynamic content for location specific stuff, right? So maybe one location has a special. You should be able to show that special in your multi-location website and have those specials be available for certain locations, especially if you're franchising. Some franchises want to run their own specials. You can do that with your website. And if you have a strong multi-location website in 2024, this should be easy to do. It's also a good idea to set up some marketing automation for each location. Some brands want to do this, some don't. But the brands who do this, they are trying to create a stronger sense of community with the people in that location and that brand. And so one of the things you can do to facilitate that is by building location-based marketing automation. This can get pretty challenging at scale, but it is a way to build that sort of connection with the local brand's constituents. And then another thing that we like to do is set up location automation for our customers using a tool like Yext, which I will show you here. So essentially, Yext acts as a sort of data pipeline, right? So if you have your centralized data management or your database, you can use Yext as a data pipeline to then send that data to Yelp, Foursquare, Local, Yahoo, Google My Business, all of the platforms, to just ensure that all the data is the same. It'll make your life much easier when building locations or changing data for one of your locations. It's just going to make your life a lot easier. It is a little expensive. It saves you a lot of time, but if you don't have the money, then you can just do a lot of these things manually. And then if you're in the healthcare space, you want to make sure that you're HIPAA compliant, right? This is a absolute must for healthcare websites. You want to make sure that all of your multi-location software is HIPAA compliant, that you're encrypting patient data, you're using SSL certificates and secure forms, you're using compliant tools for appointment scheduling, you're not having the Facebook pixel on all pages of your website to automatically track data. There's a lot here for HIPAA compliance, but it's extremely important, especially if you have multi-location, where you likely have a big website if you do, and it's easy to violate HIPAA through simply just not being extremely careful. You as the marketer are responsible for ensuring that patient data does not get into the ad platforms. If it does by accident, you as the marketer are still at fault, because you should be regulating and making sure that your patient's privacy remains intact. So those are the 9 things that you need to do in order to have a website that acquires 50,000 patients a month. I know it's a lot of information and there's a lot of things to do. And if it feels overwhelming to implement all of these things, well, I have good news for you, because that is where we step in and specialize. We have helped over 30 multi-location businesses get set up for success with acquisition, with website structure, and overall digital strategy. And we've actually come up with a new offer for businesses that are in the healthcare space, which is we will come in, we'll review your website, we'll review your marketing strategies, and we'll review your HIPAA compliance with all of your digital technologies. And we're going to come up with 3 ways to help you improve in each of these areas. If there's no way to improve 3 ways in HIPAA compliance, then you get your money back, guaranteed. It's $5,000, but it's only $5,000. And if you are a marketer, this is a really no-brainer offer, in my opinion, simply just because if you're not able to get value out of these 3 offers, if you're not able to get value out of these three ways if you're not able to get value out of the results and the auditing of these three sections of your digital strategy. Okay, so I want to introduce here's our HIPAA digital strategy. It's essentially where we come in and we review your website, we review your marketing strategies, and we review your digital HIPAA compliance. And then we're going to build a pretty large report that is going to give you a step-by-step guide on how you can improve your website, how you can improve your marketing strategies to reduce costs, and then how you can improve your HIPAA compliance so that way you don't get sued. And if we're not able to come up with 3 ways to improve in each category and then offer you a step-by-step strategy on how to improve, then you're going to get your money back. It's $5,000, which isn't that much money for a CMO who is looking to take their multi-location healthcare business to the next level. In fact, if you're a CMO, you should be pretty interested in learning how you can improve your website anyways. So it's just our entry point offer. Of course, if you want to come in and just work with us directly on a project, we're happy to do so. We can figure that out when you schedule time to chat with us. And I will provide the link to the call, and I will provide a link for you to schedule a call at the bottom of this video, and I hope to chat with you soon.